All right, hey everybody. So this week in our topic 2 of 3, we're going to be working on multiplying by zeros and by ones. So we already know how to multiply by zeros and ones, so these topics should be easy. But I just want to go over a couple of things that we didn't really cover before, okay? So specifically when we multiply by 0 and we know that the product is going to be 0, this is going to be called the zero property of multiplication. So again, it's called the zero property of multiplication. And what that means is anything times 0 is 0, okay? So if we take any number, we know that 7 times 0, because one of the factors in the problem is 0, we know that the answer is going to be 0. If I was to take 8 times 0, I know that because it has a 0 in it, that the answer is going to be 0. Hence why the property is called zero property of multiplication, okay? Again, I could do, it doesn't matter the order, so if I put the 0 first and I multiply by 10, okay, my answer is still going to be 0. I could multiply 0 by 100, and my answer is, hopefully you said 0. Okay, so that is again called the zero property of multiplication, and it again it's called the zero property because the product is going to be 0. Okay, next we have multiply by ones. Okay, so we have a specific property for this one. This one is called the identity property of multiplication. So again, it is the identity of multiplication. Okay, so the identity property just wants you to remember that it is when there is a 1 in the problem. Okay, so the identity property is that anytime you multiply a number by 1, it's always the other number. Okay, and we've already learned that before, but it's kind of just a specific term for it. So I know that if I do 1 times 7, I can identify that there is a 1 in this problem, so I can know for sure that I can use the identity property, and I can go ahead and I can look next door to the other factor, and I know that the answer is going to be 7. Okay? If I do 8 times 1, again, it doesn't matter which order the factors go in. I can identify that there is a 1 in this problem, or a 1 as a factor, and I can look next door, and I know that the answer is going to be 8. Okay? The same thing if I take 1 times 100. Okay, I can identify that there is a 1 as a factor, so I look at the other factor and it is 100, so I know that the answer is going to be 100. Okay, so again, kind of just a recap of what we learned before, that anything times 0 is going to be 0, and if there is a 0 in the problem, we call it the zero property of multiplication. And for multiplying by ones, we know that anytime we multiply by 1, it's always the other factor. Okay, and when we see a 1 in the problem, we call it the identity property of multiplication. Okay, thanks guys.